What's up guys, Zed Hacker here, and welcome to my tier list for patch 12.23, really patch 12.23b, because the B patch came out last week. The meta's had some time to settle, and so we've really started to see the comps that are really strong rise to the top. There are a few comps that are a bit egregiously strong, I would say, but overall, still a pretty balanced meta, still a ton of different comps that are viable. I'm only going to give you 5 today, but there are a lot of comps that are on this list that I think are still playable. Stuff like Misfortune carry, stuff like Viego carry, even things like Belveth carry and Aurelion Soul carry I think are fine. They're not on this list, but you can play around them, so this isn't everything in the meta. It's just 5 comps that I think are really consistent and really strong. So let's hop right into it immediately with our first comp, which is Zed carry. So even after the nerfs, Zed is still a playable comp. You still basically completely rely on Zed. And this version is actually running 4 Duelists and Duo carrying Vayne. Nyla's just an incredibly strong unit with Duelist, and of course Yasuo is very easy to get in for the 3 Laser Core with Sejuani. So this gives you a pretty strong front line. You of course hacker him Zed to the back line and allow him to just tear through the entire enemy team. Echo can be your main tank or it can be Sejuani. Really just depends on who you 2-star. So yeah, I mean this is just a very straightforward AD comp. There's almost not much to say past it. You get Hacker, and of course, Zoe's a really nice unit because she provides you Hacker, and she provides Prankster with Echo, which is really crucial. You can item hold Vayne early and then move items to Zed later and just downgrade Vayne to a Vayne one, or you can even item hold like worst case like a Yasuo or like maybe another duelist like Gangplank, like Kale. You wouldn't really want to item hold Fiora because she's more of a tank. So it's ideally like item holding Vayne, and that actually makes it really nice because you can get duelists in, potentially hit some duelist hero augments, like Nyla hero augments. Of course, you can also item hold someone like Ashe. That's another decent item holder, though she did get nerfed this patch. So you can get an early duelist, get an early laser core, and then very easily transition to this Zed comp. So I think it's a pretty good comp for new players just because oftentimes it'll be buy the duelist, buy the laser core, and then get to this late game board, and you'll be very happy. The other thing to point out here is this is a level 7 board. The level 8 is pretty flexible just because like you have all these units, but what do you really want to add here? There's nothing insane. You could throw in like a random Star Guardian if you wanted to, but that doesn't add the most value. I see most people just adding in like a Fiddlesticks, like a really strong splash unit at level 8, so like a random Fiddlesticks or like a random Janna, depending on how good the forecaster buff is. So it's really just sort of like a splash unit spot. If you hit like a Rammus 2 on your roll down or a Vel'Koz 2 on your roll down, then you can easily play that. Of course, you can always play LeBlanc as your 3rd hacker if you hit that. So there's really a lot of stuff that can be played here. And once again, as is the case with all comps this set, it's very flexible. You can play the LeBlanc. You can end up playing like a random Soraka. There's a lot of stuff that you can do in this comp. So don't just play these same 7 units every game, but this is the place to start. At least a little like baseline, and then you can sort of figure out the rest of the comp from there. So this is a very strong board. Oh, and last thing is that Nyla, she heals the units around you, so ideally you don't spread out too much because then Nyla's going to get less value from her ability. So you want to group up a little bit, though super late game, if you're into like a Taliyah or something, it might make sense to just sack the Nyla heal and spread out because you getting super AoE'd is not worth whatever, the Nyla heal is, the 275 or 325 heal is on your units. You'd probably rather just like spread out if Taliyah is just gonna like one-shot your entire team. So this is a very strong AD option. Let's go to number 4, and as usual, we go from weakest to strongest. So this is the 5th strongest comp in my opinion. Number 4, we have Bruisers. I say Bruisers every time, I'm so sorry. Brawler with Soraka as our backline carry. Another board that stabilizes really hard on level 7, and it's also a Jax carry board. So this is a board that was really broken last patch. People started to find out about it like right before the patch was coming out. Thankfully, they nerfed Jax a bit, and so the board is not as broken as it once was, but it's still quite strong. It still stabilizes very well around Jax. You can just roll down at level 6 for just these 6 units, except Sejuani will usually be Renekton because you haven't been able to hit Sejuani yet at level 6 usually. So it's usually roll down for just 6 brawlers with a Jax carry, slam like a Gwynsu's and a BT on him, and then you just let that man go to town. If you hit a Jax 2, you are chilling. If it's 3-cost hero augments and you hit the Jax carry hero augment, you are super chilling. So yeah, it's a pretty straightforward board. And then Soraka comes in as a secondary damage source, activates admin, activates heart. As far as the admins you want for this comp, things that give flat HP, like if you have the one that gives your entire team flat HP, that's nice because of course that scales with Brawler. Things that give your team shield based on their HP is really good, of course, as well. Things that scale with game timer really well. There's a lot of stuff that's pretty good here. AP is even fine on Jax because he is kind of like an AP champion, even though he auto attacks a lot, but his ability does do magic damage. So, and it has an AP scaling, so like giving him AP is not even bad, giving him attack speed's not bad. You can really use a lot of admins with this comp. The main thing you want is something that is a team buff, not a selfish buff, because if you have something that only buffs admins, it'll only buff these units, whereas if you buff the whole team, then you can buff up Jax. This is like pretty close to best in slot Jax. You would ideally like to have like a rapid fire cannon in a lot of matchups, oftentimes over like a QSS, like Winsu rapid fire cannon BT, or even if your Jax is really, really safe with the rapid fire cannon, you're not afraid of him dying, you could even just go full damage Winsu rapid fire cannon like Giant Slayer. But this is a pretty consistent best in slot as well. Other really good items include Titan's Resolve, that's amazing. Like I said, Giant Slayer. And Jeweled Gauntlet I really don't think offer that much, but they are items that you can build sometimes. So and Jeweled Gauntlet are okay. Hodge is fine as a alternative to BT if you can't hit it. So Jax build is pretty flexible. And then Soraka, she really, really wants a blue buff because she has that low mana cost of 40. It's also a mana cost that I don't want to go too far in depth, but having a mana cost of 40 works very, very poorly with Spear of Shojin. So you tend to want blue buff on Soraka. JG is just a good damage item. And then Archangels, for the fights to go really long, you can build healing on her, but she already has some inbuilt healing. If you need more tank killing, you can build Giant Slayer. You can even build Stride Breaker on her, or Guard Breaker, I'm sorry, instead of like Archangel Staff. If you're up against a lot of Jax mirror matchups where you want to tear through their shields, because this is a board that has a ton of shields. Vi has shields, Lee Sin has shields, Riven has shields, Lee Sin also shields another unit. Jax will have a shield with ET. So if you want to counter this comp, Guardbreaker and Giant Slayer are both very, very important. All right, on to our number 3 comp. This is Samira carry, and this is a really capped version of the board where you've hit 4 sure shots. But if you haven't hit 4 sure shots, you can always, end up instead of Aphelios and like Senna or Sivir, you can end up like duo carrying Samira and Senna or duo carrying Samira and Sivir, and then just building around whatever frontline you have. Once again, flex gameplay, baby. It's so good. So, you can play, so many units with this. Honestly, you sort of just build out your front line. You don't really want to fit in an ace unit because it's going to ruin your ace for Samira. So like something like a Mordekaiser isn't good, but you can get in like more bruisers. So you could play like a Sejuani instead, or brawlers. I'm sorry. But yeah, you can get in like Sejuani. You can get in like Nunu instead of some of these guys. You can throw in a random Urgot, and also the Urgot can go on the Zed board as well as a flex unit. That's one I forgot. You can throw in even a random Janna that works really well with Sivir. A really nice thing you can do actually is if you haven't hit all this stuff yet, you can do this with Sivir and Janna and then put in Galio, which of course gives you Mascot with Alistar, and then you get 3 civilian, and a lot of Samira's damage is in her cast, so making her cast a lot is not a bad thing at all. So this is something else you can do, but it's really just playing around Samira carry. I think Samira carry has gone up a lot as all the other carries have been nerfed. Also, like a lot of the assassin carries like Zed and like Viego that are dashing onto backline and just one-shotting Samira are gone. So now this immobile ADC that just sits on the backline actually feels a lot better. So yeah, I think this is a very solid comp. You really just build AD items and then end up playing around Samira, and you can flex between these two comps because like Renan's and Last Whisper are both great items. IE is also a great item on both. The only thing is that like Edge of Night is much better on Zed than it is on Samira, but it's still okay on Samira. So you can do sort of like AD flex and flex between Zed and Samira if you want to, because these are both two very, very strong AD comps that you can play. So definitely give this comp a try if you haven't already because you thought Samira sucked. It's actually like quite strong and caps out really, really high because you can, end up capping out your board with the Aphelios. And you don't have to play 4 sure shot. You can also just play Aphelios and then like 5 cost soup and then just like start throwing in 5 costs and do something more like this. This is also, completely fine. So you don't have to play 4 sure shot variant. If you have a ton of gold, you would probably play the 5 cost variant where you just play around Samira and Aphelios. Oh, I also had a Gwynsu on Aphelios, which it's oftentimes a really, really good item slam. So like you put it on like Ashe if you want to get rid of a rod, but it's not the best item on Samira because she spends so long casting that she's wasting a bunch of the autos. So this item tends to on Aphelios. You can put it on Senna to item hold for Aphelios until you hit him, but the Gwynsu usually goes on Aphelios, and these items, just like straight up damage and a little bit of attack speed, tend to go on Samira. So that is, in my opinion, best in slot Samira, and then, tank items on Echo. If you hit like Alistair too before Echo, it's fine. Oh, and Leona is a really, really good holder of Bloodthirster, just because, she nukes units, so she'll gain a lot of HP from this. All right, so that is our number 3 comp. On to number 2, so the second best comp in my opinion this patch. It is the Spellslinger Taliyah board. I think this Taliyah unit is a bit overtuned right now. I think she is due for some nerfs when the next patch comes, because I think she's the best AP carry in the game by far right now. If you could choose between playing any 2-star AP carry, you would almost always pick Taliyah just because she does so much damage. And also this board fits really well together. You see this 8-unit board gets in infinite synergies, 5 Star Guardian and 4 Spellslinger, but it's also very, very flexible. Like if you haven't hit Janna and Syndra yet, you can think about adding units like Sona, who of course completes a lot of the synergies. She completes your Heart synergies, she completes your Spellslinger synergies, and then you can think about taking out other Star Guardians. Like instead of this, you can end up playing stuff like LeBlanc, and then when you have stuff like LeBlanc in, then it becomes really nice to play stuff like Soraka, so you can do things like this. And then if you have this board, you can end up playing a Nyla frontline to get your Star Guardian in. I don't know, there's just so many options with this comp that I think it's really nice, because as long as you hit Taliyah 2, you can sort of build the rest of the board around it, and even Taliyah 1, the board can stabilize around. And you just want full damage on Taliyah. Shojin's really nice because she's a pretty high mana cost unit, and then just straight up damage on her. You can even build Gunblade if you're afraid of her getting one-shots. You can cover up one of these items and put Gunblade in if you want to. Obviously, Giant Slayer is really good. A really good item that I think is pretty underrated on Taliyah is the Guard Breaker, because the way this item works, it's when you hit a shield, you deal 30% more damage for 3 seconds. So the way that's going to work is she's going to ult. If they have a shield on your front line, the wall running through their front line is going to proc this 30% extra damage. Then the wall is going to hit their back line with the extra damage. Then the wall is going to explode with the extra damage on their front line and their back line. So she actually synergizes really, really well with this item. So if you're in a lobby with a lot of shields into a lot of Brawlers or a lot of Echoes because he shields, or a lot of Annies because she shields, if every front line has a lot of shields on it, then the Guard Breaker can be really good. It's also really nice when you don't have a lot of offensive items, because it builds out of the Giant Spell. So if you're I don't have any offensive components this game, we'll just use Glove plus Giant Spell, and boom, you've made an offensive item. So I think that's a very, very strong item, very underrated, and really, really good because of the way it interacts with Taliyah's ability. So I think this is another really strong comp. Ideally roll on 7, roll on 8. As far as item holders for this comp, you can play around the Gadgettine opener with Lulu being an item carrier. Oh, I just put her in there, I didn't mean to. But yeah, Lulu can item carry, Zoe can item carry, though she doesn't love Shojin as much, but Taliyah can use blue buff. Yuumi can be your item carry, Lux can be your item carry. It's really just any kind of early AP, even GP can be your item carry. So there's a lot of early AP, Kai'Sa as well. I don't want to go through every AP unit, but really they could all be your item carry, and it's really nice because all the Star Guardians are really good item carries, so you can fit them in, get early Star Guardians in, which just makes the transition easier later. You can fit the Echo and the Nyla in really easy. Also, Annie's a monster. This unit, I think she's just gonna be so nice for the entire set. She's so good for this comp just because she's a Spellslinger that is a tank. You need Annie just because you need a Spellslinger that is a tank, and oftentimes you need Alistair just because having the Ox Force frontline is so good, and then Echo fits in. Oh, it's just chef's kiss, beautiful. And then, like I was saying, there's so many variations. If you're doing something like this, then you can end up fitting in a Zoe, getting Prankster here, and then you have Hackerim. You can Hackerim the Zoe, you can Hackerim the LeBlanc. Like I said, so many variations. I can't go through everyone, so be creative, but play around Taliyah carry if you can. This is a comp I would say, if you just want to hard force a carry, I would just play Taliyah carry every game if I could. All right. And the last comp, it should be no surprise for some people who have been playing this patch. It is Yuumi Mascot Reroll. I think this comp is just so strong. I don't know what to say, honestly. The buff to Yuumi and the fact that, a lot of these units aren't as contested because Ashe Reroll isn't as good means that if you are uncontested, you can easily hit everything here. This is a comp, so if you don't know how to play around, when you're supposed to reroll at this comp, the really simple thing to do is you just chill through all of stage 2. Don't put any gold into leveling. Just make as much gold as possible. Oftentimes this means lose streaking, but if you hit early upgrades, this can mean you win a few rounds. That's all right. Build your items when you can to preserve HP. Blue buff's amazing on Yuumi. Any AP item's good on Yuumi. So chill through stage 2. Don't level up at all. At 3-1, so that's going to be after Krugs, you're going to roll down some gold to try to hit some upgrades. You oftentimes don't roll to 0. Usually you roll down to around 33 gold. I think that is actually a really, really good number of gold to roll down to because it allows you to guaranteed hit 40 and then 50 the next round. There's an interesting post about that on the competitive TFT subreddit. But like even with win streak and loss streak, like you're going to make 3 gold plus 5 up to 41, and then you're going to make another 4 plus 5 gold up to 50 gold essentially. So 33 is actually like a magic number to get back to 50 gold in 2 rounds. So that's a really nice number to stop at. So I often roll down to around 33 gold at 3-1, hit some upgrades, hit Nasus 2, Galio 2, ideally Yuumi 2, but not always. And then you're just going to chill at level 5, a slow roll for this board. The awkward thing about this board is obviously at level 5 you can't get 6 units in, so it might mean you end up playing a board that looks like, even this, just like 4 mascots here, and you don't have supers in until you hit level 6. But you can roll down for this board, and then once you hit all of your 1 stars, 3-starred, so Galio 3, Nasus 3, GP 3, then you're going to push level 6, get in Lee Sin, your board's going to get way stronger, and then you're going to chill at level 6, get back up to 50 gold, and then slow roll your gold, which means rolling down your gold above 50 to look for Yuumi 3, Malphite 3, and Lee Sin 3. This is a board that you definitely get way stronger hitting like a Malphite 3 and a Yuumi 3 than you do going to level 7, so prioritize hitting everything 3-starred unless you're like contested in supers, and then, just get your Yuumi 3 and get out. So that's something to consider as well. And then late game, best case scenario, you can start pushing levels and getting more mascots in, eventually get your Alistar in, and your Nunu in for 6 mascot. If you ever get +1 mascot, you can potentially, end up cutting one of these units. But the problem is, like, they're all so good. So, like, you'd really want +2 mascots so that you could hit 8. You can also do really well with, like, +1 heart. Then you can get in units like Lulu. You can even roll for Lulu 3 in this board if you hit a lot of Lulus early. You can also just play something random like a Soraka. So, like, Soraka hero augments can work. Even Sona hero augments can work. Because the awkward thing about this board is if your first augment isn't a hero augment, then like 3-cost hero augments aren't that insane. Like if you're looking at these 3-cost units, Alistar, but he comes in later. Sona, but she like sort of comes in later. But like this can be like your level 7 with like a Sona hero augment that gives your Yuumi extra mana, I guess, just so her first cast happens faster. It's not the best, but it's what you can do in a worst case scenario. Or you can just have like your Alistar hero augment. You'll also notice that I have the Yuumi positioned in the 3rd row. This is because the way that she works is she has 5 range and she shoots her ult at the unit with the furthest target in her attack range. So if you put her here, and I guess I can do like the full board thing here, if you put her in the 3rd hex, she has the ability to snipe a backliner that's back here with her ult. If you put her back here, there's no way she's ever hitting this Taliyah. So this is really nice Yuumi positioning because it gives her the opportunity to snipe this Taliyah and kill her. It does very often she'll snipe like a frontliner, but once she kills 1 or 2 units over here, she'll end up going here. You can even think about positioning your damage over here, kill off these units, and then sort of force Yuumi to attack over here. The problem is then, like, what if these units die? Then it gets scary. So you often want to put Yuumi same side as the enemy carry so that she has the ability to snipe. And also it's really nice because oftentimes, depending on positioning, sometimes you might dodge a Taliyah ult, depending on how you position this. Ideally you'd do something like this if you're versus a Taliyah. The only issue is like if they have a frontliner here and they walk up and kill your Yuumi. That would be bad, but I'm going a bit in depth. Blue buff, like I said, is really good. Any damage item is good. Gunblade is good. Giant Slayer is good. JG is good. Really just take anything. Yeah, the comp's pretty straightforward. Of course, if you get a Yuumi augment, absolutely slam that. Galio augment, absolutely slam that. Nasus hero augment, absolutely slam that. So it's a bit straightforward. If you want to force a reroll comp because that's your jam, then this is absolutely the comp for you. And I think it's the strongest comp in this patch if you're uncontested. If you want to win every game, don't hard force this comp because you will end up contested some games and you'll just lose because you're going to have 6 Yuumis, the other guy's going to have 6 Yuumis, and you're going to die. But I legit had a game the other day where I top forward with Yuumi 2 and everything else 3-starred, so I think it's just a little bit broken. But yeah, that's my review for the patch. It is going to be the patch for the next like 2-3 weeks. There's not going to be a new patch until middle of January, like here. I think it's gonna be the patch for the next like 3 weeks. So definitely use these comps. We're gonna be on this patch for a while. I think it's relatively balanced. You know, the Yuumi is definitely a problem, but not like insanely broken. A lot of these comps I think are strong, but like, you know, they're not so strong that they're meta warping. So overall, I think it's a pretty good patch. Go get your LP. Let me know what comps you guys are succeeding with in the comments down below, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye.